Hey there, Internet friends. Trevor Starkey here with another episode of AC Saturday, my weekly Saturday show where I talk about anime and comics. This week, my journey through My Hero Academia continues with a couple more episodes, as well as I sat down and read Volume 1 of Sex Criminals by Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky, subtitled One Weird Trick. I've been hearing good things about Sex Criminals for probably 4 or 5 years now. I don't know when it came out, but probably right around after it first came out. One of my friends who was getting into graphic novels at the time had been kind of directed to it and kind of told me its premise about basically, these two people have sex and rob banks because when they have sex, time stops. And I was like, that seems cool and weird and what a weird superhero, what a weird superpower. So reading through Volume 1 here, the first 5 issues, you get introduced to Susie, who's basically your narrator, who's the female of the couple, and she, by the end of the first issue, she kind of hooks up with John, and we kind of see how both of them, over the course of these 5 issues, we find out how both of them kind of discovered they had this weird ability, and how they've kind of both incorporated into their lives differently. You have John, who very much kind of hates his daily life, and so he basically takes the opportunity to crank one out, freeze time, and then go shit in his boss's plant, seemingly on a daily basis. And then you have Susie, who doesn't use it for kind of nefarious reasons or anything like that, but she always does kind of find herself alone, and she often she calls the kind of the frozen time the quiet, because she's the only one there. Nobody else can kind of really interact with her. And what I like about these first 5 issues is that kind of they're intercut with learning this backstory about these characters, while we also see them in the present day, seemingly kind of robbing a bank. They're we see kind of a couple pages in each issue are present day robbing the bank, but we also see that there are other people in the quiet with them. So apparently more people than them have this power, and so we kind of learn about that through these issues, and kind of who we get a glimpse of who might be their arch nemesis in this wacky world that they have as sex criminals. So I'm really enjoying it so far. I look forward to. I picked up when I grabbed this last week, I picked up volumes 1 and 2, so I'll probably be back with volume 2 impressions next week, but I look forward to seeing kind of where the story goes. I like also that they're kind of, apart from the crazy powers of this couple, where it's also examining, the pros and cons of a new relationship and feeling each other out and all that kind of stuff. So I appreciate kind of the down-to-earthness element of it as well. So those are my thoughts on Sex Criminals Volume 1. Highly recommend if you have not checked it out yourself. And then continuing on into kind of my Hero Academia Season 2 watch-through. I watched 2 more episodes today, picking up off of the Season 2 premiere last week. I watched Roaring Sports Festival and In Their Own Quirky Ways. Both of these really kick off the kind of sports festival that's going to be seemingly the season arc, with the first competition of the festival basically being an obstacle course around the arena. In the first issue, or the first episode here, we have All Might having a conversation with Deku, which we got to see a little bit of last week, and it is very much All Might wants Deku to reveal himself to the world, to know that there is a successor to All Might, that there is a new person with that ability who's going to kind of come out and take the reins, take over for All Might when he can't do the job anymore. We see we get a little bit more of all the other characters that we didn't get last week. So we get Bakugo kind of out there frustrated. He sees basically everybody else who isn't him as an extra, which is a nice little kind of meta joke a little bit. When other classmates are coming and confronting him, he says, "Get out of the way, extras." I like that because most of these characters are. But we also get to meet Class B, which is the other hero class, because Deku and Bakugo and all them are in Class A, and that's who we've been following. So we get Class B, the other kind of half of the hero class, but we also get our first glimpse of like the support classes and the business classes. So that was kind of neat. We get kind of a montage of all the students getting ready for the challenges, and nobody really knows what the challenges are going to be, so they're kind of practicing their abilities, and it's a nice refresher for what each person's abilities kind of are. You get like the electric kid, and you got the girl who can kind of pull things out of her body, and kind of everybody's little abilities there. And they ultimately end up showing that the first challenge is going to be this obstacle course. Todoroki, who is the guy who's like half frozen, half cold, or half frozen, half hot. He's like super powerful and whatnot. He basically like says, "I think I'm more powerful than you. I don't know why All Might has taken to you, but I'm gonna win this thing." And he challenges Deku kind of there, and Deku says like, "I'm gonna put my all into this as well." So the challenge begins, and Todoroki kind of kicks off with the lead by like freezing all of his fellow competitors behind him, and using his ability to take out the big kind of machine monsters that we saw in like the placement challenge at the beginning of last season's episodes. That kind of led everybody. Todoroki wasn't there because he was one of the recommended students, so he didn't have to go through that process. But we get to see him kind of face them in this episode. Then moving on into the second episode, kind of the challenge continues, and we get kind of everybody else figuring out how they're going to get around these big machine monsters. We also get kind of a smattering of the other Class 1 students and their abilities. You got Jiro Kirishima, who's the red-headed guy who can basically turn his stuff into, like, his arms and limbs into rocks, or hard as rock. His quirk is hardening. You get Tetsu is his name, Tetsu, both first and last name, who's one of the Class B kids who basically challenged Class A in the last episode. He comes out with basically an identical power, but his is steel-based. We also have, I finally learned the names of Hanta Sero, who's the guy who can shoot tape out of his elbows, and Fumikaze Tokoyami, who is the bird guy who has a mysterious dark shadow living inside of him that can like change form and abilities. So they all basically use their powers to go flying over the enemies, while everybody else kind of has to figure out, okay, well, they have to just kind of fight through. To phase 2 of the obstacle course is a tightrope challenge, where it's a whole bunch of like just kind of stone pillars with a vast chasm between, and just really like strings bouncing everything together, or not bouncing, tying everything together. And this is where we get one of the support class students kind of revealing that if you were support class, you were able to, in order to showcase your abilities in this tournament, you were able to bring anything that you've built to showcase, and ideally you're going to get hired on to basically build Batman's gadgets and stuff like that. So it's, again, I love that this is kind of filling out the world of superheroes and the jobs and the vast scope of what this universe is. But it's also effectively if Hero Academia, or the UA is Hogwarts for superheroes, this is basically the Triwizard Tournament for superheroes. So that's fun. And then you also have kind of the phase 3 of this match is a minefield. So this kind of evens the playing field out. Todoroki, who's been ahead the whole time, and Bakugo, who's like jumped ahead and been ahead with him, they're kind of battling it out up in the lead. All the other students are kind of showing up, and Deku, our hero, who he grabbed basically like a broken piece of one of the big metal monsters at the beginning, he's kind of using that here as a shield, and he basically uses it, blows up a whole bunch of mines to send himself rocketing across the field, and ends up taking the lead and winning this the obstacle course as a result of it, which I loved, and he did the whole thing without using his power, because of course he still can't control it, so that was really great, and just showing how wonderfully ingenuitive he is, and how much of a strategy guy he really can be. We get a nice little cutaway to like the business students, the business class, basically trying to figure out, well, we don't know what his quirk is, so how's that going to come into play? But he did win, so of course he's really marketable and bankable right now, and so it's a fun, nice little gag to them. And then we kind of get the tease for coming the next kind of phase of the next stage of the sports festival, a cavalry battle, where seemingly, I guess, I don't know, like they describe it as like it's like any other cavalry battle. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but basically seems to be like teams are going to be kind of assembled, and you get points if you eliminate teams, and the points are based on like how well they performed in this last round. And so like the person who came in 42nd and was like the cutoff point, who was Naval Laser Dude, he's only worth like 5 points if you take out his team. Whatever team he's on is he's going to count as 5 points towards your goal there, whereas Deku is worth 10 million points. And so kind of the theory there is that if he wants to stay in the lead, he's going to have to take out everybody else, or because anybody who takes him out is pretty much automatically going to be, shot up to first place. So, interested to see where it goes from here. I really enjoyed these episodes. I really enjoy kind of the sports festival thing that we're kind of embarking on. And so, yeah, those are my thoughts on these couple episodes of My Hero Academia. Let me know what your thoughts are of either My Hero Academia or Sex Criminals in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com. You can follow me at SnarkyStarkey on Twitter. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.